I sat down with the former Export-Import Bank chairman, Fred Hochberg, and I got his take on U.S. and China trade relations, as well as the midterms. Take a listen.
A really bad place. I see only escalation. I don't see an exit ramp that gives people dignity and a discreet way of coming off of an increasingly escalating situation. And I don't see that as a good thing at all. Good thing globally for the economy. It may be good for Donald Trump, but I don't see it really good for the economy.
$500 billion. That's what President Trump earlier today on CNBC said he was willing to tack on. $500 billion.
So that means your iPhone is going to have a tariff on it. And when he starts putting a tariff on iPhones, I think actually there will be bloody hell to pay.
But he says that, wait a minute, China has taken advantage of us, and you would agree with this, in terms of intellectual property for far too long. So, you read some of these economic reports, all of this doom and gloom forecasting is not necessarily what's in the numbers. They argue that the U.S. has the upper hand.
I think this is a myth. The idea that the U.S. has the upper hand, it can call the shots around the world and bully people is over. Our power lies in our legitimacy, that we actually did it with soft power and we did it in a legitimate way. And the more we act illegitimately, we begin to lose allies.
President Trump has said consistently he prefers to have bilateral trade negotiations. We've seen there being a multilateral response. Look at the European Union and the deal that they inked with Japan earlier this week. The president of the European Union Commission is going to be at the White House next week. What do you think is going to happen specifically with regards to the auto sector?
Well, first of all, we're not going to know about the auto sector until September.
Yep.
September is going to be, and that's going to be a key thing to watch, what exactly happens with the auto sector. But the auto sector is also probably different than like the pickup truck sector, which has had a tariff for a long time, because Americans are one of the few people where your mom or moms around the country drive pickup trucks to go grocery shopping. That doesn't really happen in the rest of the world.
Cirilli, for the record, does not drive a pickup.
All right, just so we know.
No.
Okay.
But with regards, but seriously, because Germany isn't on board with the EU on this, they're actually saying don't get rid of these tariffs. I mean, this is a source of revenue, and the Germans are not in line with that.
I mean, the challenge with tariffs are they create friction. They create artificial prices. It's one thing to put a tariff in on a temporary basis to let a domestic industry get up to speed. That does not seem to be the case. Here it seems to be punitive. Going back to your comment about China, China has acted as an illegitimate player in many ways, and they're not playing by the rules. But a tariff is a blunt instrument in terms of trying to remedy that. And I don't think we're remedying in the way that's going to get our results.
What I have to say, but I interviewed House Financial Services Committee Chairman Jeb Hensarling, a Republican who you used to clash with a lot on Capitol Hill about reauthorization fights. You guys agree on this? This isn't just a partisan issue on trade.
I agree. There are many things I'm sure that Jeb Hensarling and I can agree upon.
Speaking of the Export-Import Bank, what's the latest?
Well, they had a hearing yesterday, and Senator Toomey has indicated that he is inclined, he's not there yet, but inclined to be supportive of Kimberly Reed, which is a good thing.
Good thing.
I don't fully understand being in support of Kimberly Reed, but not in support of the Inspector General and the 3 other board members.
Yeah, you are one of the most influential Democratic donors. We're at the cusp of the midterm elections. We're heading into the new presidential cycle. I have to be frank here, because when we talk about trade, a lot of the Democrats, the base, they don't like Nafta. They don't like that China's taking advantage. You go into states like Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, where I'm from, that the president won. So, I mean, what's really going on here? How do Democrats appeal to those folks who are against NAFTA?
Well, actually, the polls show, I would push back on you. The polls show that actually Democratic voters tend to be more pro-trade than Republican voters today.
Wow.
We have the flip in leadership in the House. In other words, Democratic members tend to be more anti-trade, I think, than the base voters are. We find Republican members of Congress are more pro-trade, more free trade than Republican voters are. So we've got a real challenge going on here because the voters and their members are somewhat out of sync.
Last question for you. When the Helsinki fallout, the Russia fallout, in terms of fundraising for the Democratic Party, is this just about fundraising, this talk of treason?
You know what? I'm not the expert on that area, so I think you should ask other people about that. I'd like to get some fair-minded people in Congress, and I also think what's important is that we get Congress to represent and get the gerrymandering out of here, and that we start letting people have a real voice.